Warning. This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I want to do a little nod to the weekend deep dive, a little nod to a new series coming soon on this channel, and then we're going to talk briefly about MicroStrategy, briefly about gold, and briefly about Bitcoin. And when we get to Bitcoin, I think this is going to be particularly important because I think it's time for me to draw a new line in the sand for where I dump my entire stack. So the long-time followers of the channel will know we've had multiple lines in the sand for where I sell the entire stack, which essentially for me is just hard invalidation on the Bitcoin bull market. We've been dragging those lines in the sand up as each of these weekly cycle lows prints, and we're pretty close now to me drawing yet another line in the sand, slightly higher up than last time, where I say if price trades below this level, then I have to dump my stack, I have to call the top in Bitcoin, and we have to move on to greener pastures until the next 4-year cycle low. So I'm going to show you where I'm going to set my new lines. I'll of course recap where the current one is as well. So without further ado, let's get into this, okay? One reason for you to subscribe if you're not already is on the weekend, we're going to come back and re-examine the base case hypothesis. And as a little nod to those that know, okay, we're back below 2%, probably back towards a disinflationary trend, okay? If you know, you know. If you don't know, make sure you're subscribed, notifications on, tune in on Saturday, and then you can catch up with the rest of us. Also, we are currently 97.6% probability of seeing a 25 basis point rate cut on September 17th FOMC. So again, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, then you better come back on Saturday to learn the context of whether or not this is bullish or bearish walking forward. And I threw this out there not that long ago, having had my first child. I said, look, now I have a new tax dodge to enjoy, okay, which is a JISA. So if anyone doesn't know, in the UK, we have these junior stocks and shares ISAs, essentially, and you can put up to £9,000 a year completely tax-free into one of these JISAs. And I was saying, like, we might as well do it, right? We might as well do it because otherwise I'm just going to have to give that money to the tax man. So as of yesterday, I applied for a JISA in my son's name. I stuck £9,000 in it. I believe I can stick another £9,000 in mid-April, something like that. So when we get to mid-April, the new tax year will roll over and I can shove another 9k in it. So I'll do that then. And then this 4-week-old baby will already be richer than most of you broke altcoiners, right? So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cook you that hard this early in the morning. Okay, but in all seriousness, if you want to follow along, the goal for me is going to be to fund this twice. Like I said, I've already done it once. I can fund it again with another 9. That was so uncalled for. We can fund it with another 9k next April. And then my idea is to try to flip this thing into $1 million, which I think should take around 7 years, something like that. So if you want to follow along or watch me do this, the whole thing is going to be tracked and traced. I'll show you the broker. I'll show you the inside of everything. I expect it to be kind of uneventful for a little while, but I'm going to make a playlist, shove this whole thing in that playlist, and then you can follow along, right? And either he becomes a trust fund baby or somehow I fail at this mission, but I don't think I'm going to fail, to be completely honest with you. So yeah, that's another reason to subscribe. That playlist is coming soon. A bunch of you were tagging me in this. The Federal Reserve has announced it's going to host a conference on payments innovation on Tuesday, October 21st, whatever that means, right? I doubt this can be good news, frankly, but we'll see, right? We'll see. As promised, going to briefly touch on MicroStrategy now, okay? I'm seeing a bunch of this, and you probably are as well, right? You can see the confusion. You can feel the pain in these poor, inexperienced guys' hearts. MicroStrategy hit an all-time high of 543 in November 2024, when Bitcoin was at 94,300 bucks. That was almost 1 year ago. At the time, MicroStrategy owned this many Bitcoin, okay, and since then, they've acquired an additional 300k Bitcoin. So that's over 3% of the total Bitcoin that will ever exist held by Saylor. Bitcoin's price is up 19% since MicroStrategy's all-time high, while MSTR has experienced a 39% drawdown in share price over the same time frame. So you can see these questions, right? How can it be that MicroStrategy owns almost twice as much Bitcoin today than when it hit an all-time high? How can it be that the common stock dilution has been accretive in Bitcoin per share terms, and Bitcoin is up 19% since MSTR's all-time high? But the common stock doesn't reflect any of these bullish factors. So who's got a good explanation for what's going on with the common stock prices? Well, I have. I've been trying to tell people for a long time, okay, that your valuation does not mean anything. Your MNAV, your NAV, all of it's bollocks, okay? I'm just being honest with you. All of it is total nonsense. Markets do not care about valuations. Markets don't care about your MNAV, okay? And the market can remain irrational or above or below the fair value price of an asset indefinitely, okay? MicroStrategy already forward priced all of the gains to come for Bitcoin. In fact, I pulled up this old tweet. Somebody tagged me in this a while ago. Look, I was talking about this all the way back here at the top of November of 2024, right? I was saying, coming soon. Why is Bitcoin going up, but MicroStrategy still going down, right? How is it I was able to predict these kind of tweets almost a year in advance, right? How is it that that's the case? It's because leaders lead and laggards lag. Everything coming for Bitcoin has already been priced into MicroStrategy. That's why it did a 40x off the lows, while Bitcoin had only done about 500 or 600% at the time, right? Also, who have I blocked and for what reason? Chartists tend to have a problem with this big of fundamentals. Your TA won't work anymore, bro. See, I mean, when you see things like this, it just is so obvious that the top is in, right? It's so obvious that the top's in. And MicroStrategy just can't quite find a cycle low here, can it? Can't quite get back above the failed daily cycles from back here. I've drawn this line in the sand here. This was always the plan, even from the top sell back here. It looks like we're getting ready to dump this position, and I don't think this thing is ever going to recover, to be completely honest with you. At least not this cycle, right? I could see in the best case scenario maybe one more scam exit pump, and then it does this. But I think the writing's been on the wall for a long, long time. An unfortunately tough lesson for a lot of people to learn, right? But just because something makes sense logically, right? Just because something seems undervalued or overvalued does not mean the market cares, right? The market does not care. MNAV is worthless. There's a reason we say cycles are in control and everything else is narrative, and that's because it's absolutely true, okay? We already priced in everything to come for Bitcoin. I reckon even if Bitcoin were to go to 300k over the next few months, this is probably still not going to make a new high, to be completely honest with you, right? I would not at all be surprised if Bitcoin does a 1 or 2x from here, and then you end up seeing this do something like this. And everyone's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, bro, right? Why does it have to make sense? I mean, really ask yourself this, you know? And I'm not trying to be a douche about this, by the way. I'm just trying to point at things and say, you know, there's a reason I was able to know this with near certainty, as much certainty as one could have in markets, right? And that's because I've been doing this forever, right? My whole adult life I've been doing this. So I've seen this a million times before, and I will see it a million more times over my career. And anyone that is still hanging out in that weird, dodgy forum where the owners have already made off like bandits, right? The irresponsibly long crew, where all the people that started that group have already farmed everyone inside of it and left here. You know, if you're in that group now, then just understand, as of next cycle, when you're doing things over and trying to learn from your mistakes, you should never ever join another one of these groups again. You should never ever identify as an asset class, right? Right? It sounds stupid. And I know it's confusing because in 2025, you can identify as pretty much whatever you want, okay? And it's beyond the remit of this channel to really commentate on that any further. But the reality is, as a trader or an investor, you never want to identify as an altcoin. You never want your entire personality to be MicroStrategy shares. And you must not be so devoid of character that you shove all in on one single asset and then hang around in these forums, jumping up and down as if the market owes you something, right? As if MNAV means something and you're the smartest guy in the world because only you can do the calculation for MNAV, right? And the share price is eventually going to work this out because eventually the market's going to work out this is cheap relative to MNAV, right? No, that's not how it works, okay? We saw the exact same thing back here. We've seen it here, and I reckon we'll see it again in the next cycle. Anyway, don't take any of this stuff personally, right? I know I'm poking fun at people. I know I've been a bit of a toolbox this morning, but hopefully you can see the funny side of it, right? What is the point in this stuff if we can't have a bit of fun along the way? Next up, gold. Okay, gold, happy days. Big Mike, having had a collab with him, it seems to be pretty well received, has decided to recount this asset class and is looking for a 5 of the 3. Before that correction, I reckon this will give us a 4-year cycle low, and then it's party time, right? So I absolutely agree with this. The only thing is, I do think we're probably going to go higher than this 4100 target, but we'll see about that. And big picture for gold. A lot of people said my 42k target was ridiculous, and I understand, because I think it is the highest one out of anyone I've ever seen. But it actually doesn't seem that crazy, considering both the Grand Supercycle and Supercycle Wave 3s have yet to even reach 100% extension. Usually a Wave 3 is the largest and strongest, and here it's not even equal to Wave 1 yet. Just zooming out, you tell me why something like this, especially since this is the only way to fix the debt, remember, to revalue the gold higher, you tell me why something like this could not be coming. You tell me why it's preposterous that we could make the 1.618 by the end of the decade, right in time for the alien invasion, a Tau, right? You tell me why this is off the table. I don't think it is. I absolutely think this is possible. I think this is what we're in the middle of doing. And remember, once we get up to that magical 42k level, okay, even though it sounds totally crazy, and I understand that, okay, I understand. But once we get up there, we're going to be roughly approximate to a 1-to-1 ratio with M2. So guess what that means we can do? We can reval the gold way, way, way higher and plug most of the debt. We can balance the books for centuries to come, okay, and all is right with the world. And then essentially, the people that got away with all that printing and inflation will be able to fix the debt issue, have plenty of leeway for years to come, and it's everyone else that's had to suffer the consequences, not them, right? Not the country, not the government, not the feds, not the central banks, okay? They all get to make off like bandits by just simply allowing the price to finally make it up here and then revaluing what's on the vault, as we've talked about and there's videos on. And that's it, right? All is right with the world again. So is it that crazy? From a chart perspective, I don't think it is. And then heading over to Bitcoin, MTO has officially flipped green. I believe this is Decode's macro trend oscillator. And you can see at times when this thing is red, we tend to not do a whole heap for Bitcoin. Okay, when this thing is green and trending up into a peak, it tends to mark the final portion of the bull market, right? And right now, hopefully we're looking for something like this. Decode says, similar to the 2017 flip, where it went sideways for a bit before higher, the next month or two is critical for confirmation. Let's send it. And at the same time, if Bitcoin's lagged M2 and gold correlation holds, then the rest of the year could be very interesting. The charts point to around 167 to 185k. You can see here grey, global M2, with Bitcoin in orange. Okay, tells us to keep an open mind about seeing some kind of catch-up trade, 170-ish K. And here again in orange, we've got Bitcoin, whilst this time under the hood in black or blue, whatever color this is, we've got gold, okay? Looks a lot to me like Bitcoin has got a little bit of a catch-up trade in it. And as promised, I wanted to now talk about the cycle count and where I can draw some lines in the sand. Bob has got a beautiful illustration of this, okay? He says his view on Bitcoin is that this is just a half cycle bounce of the day 60 cycle with one more push to the downside to reset the weekly cycle to come. And he said, with that said, it's a bull market. He's not trying to sidestep it, meaning he's not trying to like get cute with his position. He's not trying to bail out here. He's not trying to jeet the bags and then buy them back a few K lower. No, he's just sitting on the side. Q4 is coming. And so you can see he's kind of calling for the current bounce here to be the half cycle low bounce, roll over, daily cycle low and a weekly cycle low. And then from here, we got two paths, right? Either the top is in and bear market time, head for those 2026 4-year cycle lows, or out of that weekly cycle low, there's one final rally to the ultimate top. And so those of you that have been following the work for a long time know the current invalidation for this bull market for me, based on cycle theory, is the low from back here, okay? We should not be trading below this cycle low if this is still a valid uptrend, okay? Weekly cycle failure here would suggest that we have to dump the entire stack. Not we, but me, right? That's what I would be doing. That's my final line in the sand. However, once this current weekly cycle low is in, and I'll show you an alternate count that I have for this as well, okay? But let's assume for now Bob's count is right. Once this weekly cycle low is in, the hard invalidation is going to be moved up from this kind of 74k level-ish to wherever the upcoming weekly cycle low forms, okay? That means if the lowest low here is 100k even, that becomes the stop loss for me. The area on the chart where I have to manage risk and dump the entire stack and start to head for that 4-year cycle low to re-enter. And then assuming we do get the bull phase of this occur, we can start to draw trend lines and use those to exit much higher up so we can actually sell the top or closer to the top than, you know, waiting for the weekly cycle low failure. But I thought this is a nice opportunity to show you that the long-term line in the sand we've held now is about to get shoved up to a new higher level. So if Bob is right, and it's not about being right or wrong, of course, it's just about staying on the right side of the trade. But if he's right, okay, we're going to have a little counter trend bounce here, roll over one final time, print a daily and a weekly cycle low, which will be 60 days measured from this daily cycle low to here. And then it should be the final leg to the top. Now, whether that top is lackluster or way higher, that's to be determined, but it's a pretty clean and obvious path. And in the meantime, it's just a case of letting the count develop. I do, however, have a slightly alternate idea here, and that is that if this thing comes swinging out of here, then this is the daily cycle low. We don't have to count from here, and Bob is doing this, right, with a weekly cycle low. Make sure that's about right. Slightly later, let's say day 60, about the 2nd of October, this would be. Okay, so that's Bob's idea. This is only a half cycle low here, which means we got a little bit of downside into the 2nd of October, and then, like I said, lower high and rollover or new higher high. But I do think there's another way to interpret this, and that is simply that we've already had the weekly cycle. This is daily cycle 1, daily cycle 2, okay, 3 in an inversion, and then we can go. And we'll know which one of these is right, because if mine is right here, and this is a daily cycle low, then we are going to see new highs pretty much immediately. And if this thing is about to roll over and make a new lower low, then Bob's count has to be correct, okay? This has to be it. And the good news is that means we target a new daily and a weekly cycle low very early October. All the complexity will then be gone from the chart. There'll be no more debating which one of these counts is correct. We can finally accept that we have the correct count in place, and we can structure trades around that weekly cycle low. As I said, once that low is in, it becomes hard invalidation for the bull market, which means we can choke the stops up. And then we can use that to anchor our next trend line and start to look for that third and final or fourth and final blow off top angle to dump the whole lot at, like we did with MicroStrategy and the stock market a bunch of times and all that kind of thing. So for now, okay, there's really no point in trying to spitball here or pretend like we know what's going to happen, because nobody's got a clue, right? We've got 2 counts now. We know one of them's going to turn out to be correct, and all we really need to do is give the market a week or so of space to either shoot straight up from here, confirming my count is correct, or roll over from here and make a new low, confirming Bob's is correct. So for now, I stand with my count because I don't think I got a problem with it at this stage, and we'll just see what the market will give, right? We'll see what happens from here. Stock market is remarkably strong, isn't it? Okay, so I hope that's the first of 2 drives into a cycle low and go. We'll see if that's the case. Gold looks like it's finally getting a little bit of the pullback into the timing window for the cycles. If I turn the cycles on, okay, hopefully we get like another 1 to 2 days of flush, and then we can add a position there. Same with silver, right? Silver should be in that window to get a quick shakeout, maybe back to the 10 MA, and then we can go. And other than that, what is there to say, right? We continue to be sat here cooking with peanut oil. The 10-year yield, the chart of truth, continues to be heavy, right? Tell that to the bond market fully in play. This thing knows rate cuts are coming, and again, we'll discuss the rate cuts and the context for the rate cuts on Saturday's deep dive video. So, in the meantime, have a fantastic rest of the week. I'm your boy Camel. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game.